Hello everyone, this is Impromptu English with Neon, and this time I am showing you a live checking of an IELTS Writing Task 2 response. Alright, so one of my students has written this answer. She has attempted an IELTS Writing Task 2. This question has actually come in a recent year in the IELTS. So as we know, there are 4 sections in the IELTS: writing, reading, listening and speaking. So in writing, there are 2 main sections, where there are exactly 2 sections, which is IELTS Writing Task 1 and then IELTS Writing Task 2. So this answer has to be written in within 250 words. So it's not within, but we have to write around. So first let's check that. What is the word count of this answer? So it's 251. So that does reach the 250 quota, but I always advise my students to write a bit beyond 250 words. But since it isn't below 250, so I'm not going to penalize this answer right now for this. So let's go to the question. Some people think that personal happiness is directly related to economic success. Others argue that happiness depends on different factors. Discuss both views and give your opinion. So this is a discussion type of question. In the IELTS Writing Task 2, most questions that you may find are argumentative topics, but this is not an argumentative question. This topic asks you to discuss both the views. Alright, so the one view is, some people think that personal happiness is directly related to economic success. Okay, this is one view. And then the other view is, others argue that happiness depends on different factors. So we have to discuss both these views and also give our own opinion at the very end. Okay, and if you haven't realized, I have already made a table where I will be giving the marks and feedback of this answer. So these are the 4 criteria of the IELTS Writing Task 2 rubric. So if you want to see, this is the official available rubric. So it's task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. So these 4. So all of these 4 criteria will be assessed individually, and then the total band scores will be averaged. Alright, so if this person gets 7 in task response and coherence and cohesion, she also gets 7, but in lexical resource she gets 6, and grammatical range and accuracy she gets 6, then her average writing task 2 score will be 7 plus 7 plus 6 plus 6 divided by 4, which is 6.5. So let's see how my student did. So let me read out the answer. This is the introductory paragraph that my student wrote. The real meaning of happiness varies from one person to another. Some people argue that economic prosperity has a direct influence on happiness, while others encourage to build good interpersonal relationships, family bonding, healthiness, and socialization to become happy. Okay, so what I normally suggest my students to do is that they should paraphrase what the question said in their first paragraph first, and then write something else, something more in that first paragraph. So the question said that, talked about 2 views, right? This is one view, that money is actually related directly to happiness. Money is happiness. And the number 2 is that no, there is something more than money that makes up happiness, right? Something like happiness, like money cannot buy happiness, things like that, right? A proverb like that. But my student hasn't actually addressed that need here. She wrote, the real meaning of happiness varies from person to person. She didn't discuss both views. She just focused on the give your opinion, this part of the prompt, this part of the question. So she is going to get some mark penalization for task response, because she didn't fulfill all the requirements of the task. But that's just the introduction. We have to read the whole answer before I can mark her task response criterion, right? But before that, I'd like to highlight that there are some grammatical mistakes. My Grammarly application is showing that it should be building instead of to build, and there are also some other red marks here and there, red underlines. So I am going to give some comments. So I'm not using the track changes the track changes facility in Microsoft Word, because some of my students, they have some problems, they have some issues understanding them, so I am directly just commenting on their mistakes. All right, so building, it should be building instead of to build. And then family bonding, healthiness and socialization, it should be health, it's not healthiness, health. And here it's good to give a comma before and, which Grammarly is showing, but it's not mandatory. I like giving a comma before and when there are 2 to 3, 2, 3, 4, 5 or more items, because it makes the items very separate. It makes it very clear for the reader to understand how many items there are. For example, interpersonal relationships 1, family bonding is 2, health is 3, and socialization is 4. Alright, so there should be an Oxford comma here, but it's not mandatory, so I'm not considering this a mistake. Moving on to the second paragraph. Firstly, so this is an example of a transition marker, right? So this is good. Let me just mark it with green, because I like green and green is a positive color. So that's a good example of a transition device, which is going to earn her good marks in coherence and cohesion. All right. Firstly, there is no doubt that people with good jobs have more prosperous lives than ordinary citizens in our society. Alright, these people hold prestigious positions. So it will be positions. Let me just write a comment about that. Positions in our society, because they have financial support to fulfill their desires. Alright, so she has identified a point about the good thing, about a good advantage of money, of economic prosperity, and now she is explaining her point. So this is good, because they have financial support to fulfill their desires. They are free to purchase expensive things of their own interest, for instance, smartphone, laptop, car, etc. So before for instance there should be a comma or a semicolon, or not a semicolon, comma or a hyphen, right? So I prefer a hyphen. So this should be, I should leave a comment here. So here there should be a comma or a hyphen. People with good jobs can lead a wealthy lifestyle, and for this reason they cannot pay much attention and care towards their family members. Even though Grammarly is showing some corrections for these, they are not mandatory, so I'm not going to penalize my student for this. Besides good jobs, but here there should be a comma actually. There are some other factors which have strong influence on happiness. Let me just give a small comment here. So before I go to the last paragraph, the third and last paragraph, I would like to point out one thing. So here up to this point, she has talked about the positive aspects of the view that money is directly related to happiness, right? And then here, besides good jobs, there are some other factors which have strong influence on happiness. So what are these factors? She hasn't actually talked about them. Shouldn't this be the start of another paragraph instead of being the concluding sentence of this paragraph? Because there should be only one main idea of each paragraph, right? So she has just written 3 paragraphs. She could have written 4 or 5 paragraphs. So I don't think that this sentence deserves to be in this paragraph, because it's a new point. Use this as the beginning sentence or a topic sentence of a new paragraph. Alright. So good health is another factor which can bring happiness in people's lives. So here it should be people, then apostrophe, then s, right? I think that was just a slip. People, then s. A healthy person can participate in various easy and difficult activities which can be a source of happiness for him. Okay. Moreover, so this is another transition marker. Let me just mark it in green. Friendly relations among family members and other people can make life happier than before. For example, children feel happy when they play with their friends. Women like to gossip with other women about shopping, Hindi TV serials, etc. Okay, so this, since there are only two elements here, so I believe that instead of a comma, there should be an and here, right? So there should be comma and then and. So it will be like, for example, children feel happy when they play with their friends, comma, and women like to gossip with other women about shopping, Hindi TV serials, etc. And also before etc. there should be another comma. Yes, Grammarly is also suggesting this. Comma. They find peace in this activity. So I'd like to point out another thing, which is that there is a simple sentence which is used by my student in this part of the paragraph. So this is good because she has been using compound sentences, she has been using complex sentences, some complex sentences. So sometimes sprinkling in simple sentences is a good idea to bring variety. Okay. In addition, so this is another transition marker. This is good. Family relationships and peaceful mind. These are also important aspects which can bring happiness in our life. So this sentence has a flaw. This sentence, the subject of this sentence is family relationships and peaceful mind. So there doesn't need to be this word these are also important aspects, because if the sentence is like this, in addition, family relationships and peaceful mind are also important aspects. Okay, so the word these is actually very redundant. It is not necessary, and not only is it not necessary, it is actually making the sentence grammatically incorrect. Remove these, which can bring happiness in our lives. To sum up the discussion, so this is also another transition marker. I would like to say that besides economic prosperity, there should be a comma here. Other factors also play pivotal role. It should be roles, right? Roles in our happy lives. Okay, so let me go to the feedback. So first of all, task response. Okay, so let me bring out this official rubric document so that you can also see whether my feedback is in line with the official IELTS guidelines or not. I may be mistaken, but I am adhering to this rubric as much as I can. So task response, as I said, the first paragraph is not a good introduction because it doesn't discuss both the views. It only gives my student's opinion. Like, she thinks that happiness varies from one person to person. It is not necessarily money to everyone, right? So this is our point. But she hasn't talked about there being the two views at first, right? She has to actually acknowledge that there are two views which are dash and dash. She had to write a sentence or a two about that. So she didn't do that. So there is some penalty about task response here. There are also other issues here. For example, she makes some points and then she explains some of them but doesn't explain all of them. For example, firstly, there is no doubt that people with good jobs have more prosperous lives than ordinary citizens in our society. So she goes on to give an explanation behind this statement. For example, she writes, these people hold prestigious positions in our society because they have financial support. She also writes, they are free to purchase expensive things of their own interest. And she gives examples. She also writes, people with good jobs can lead a wealthy lifestyle, and for this reason they cannot pay much attention and care. So this is actually a counter argument, right? because this paragraph should be only about the advantages of money relating to happiness, right? But she is saying here that yes, rich people are generally happy people, but rich people also have some significant lackings because they cannot give much pay much attention and care towards their family members. Excuse me. So this should be a different paragraph, right? So she is missing marks for coherence and cohesion here as well. Coherence and cohesion, of course, relates to organization. So there are definite problems in here as well. Moving back to task response, let me just talk about that first. Finish that part. So here she writes about good health. So this is another factor which is not related to money, right? Which is not exactly 100% related to money. So she says this is another factor, and she goes on to explain this position. And she writes about another factor, which is friendly relations among family members, right? So this is another factor. One factor is good health, another factor is friendly relationships. And she explains this position as well. And finally, peaceful mind. So she talks about family relationships again, and then also adds in peaceful mind. So there is some repetition. This is the new point that she brings up, but she also wrote family relationships, even though she talked about friendly relations among family members. So this is a repetition. Let me just write it in the comment. Repetition of a main point, which was about family relationships. Okay. To sum up the discussion, I would like to say that besides economic prosperity, so there are other factors, right? 3 factors. One factor was family relationships, another factor was peaceful mind, another factor was health. So she talked about 3 pivotal things that besides money that relates to happiness, right? So I would say that even though she gives some explanation, 1-line and 2-line explanation, she doesn't give a completely good explanation for all of her points. So let me just show you what a band 9, the highest score for a task response is that fully addresses all parts of the task, presents a fully developed position in answer to the question with relevant, fully extended and well supported ideas. Number 2, sufficiently addresses all parts of the task. So I don't think she is getting an 8 either. Presents a well-developed response to the question with relevant, extended and supported ideas. So she hasn't given an extended explanation with supporting ideas for all of her points. So she is not getting an 8 either. 7, addresses all parts of the task. Well, she does address them. Presents a clear position throughout the response. Her position was that there are other factors besides money. So that was clear enough. Presents, extends and supports main ideas, but there may be a tendency to overgeneralize and or supporting ideas may lack focus. I think that I may give her a 7 in this one because she most of these elements do align with her writing. Let me go to 6 before I give a decision. Addresses all parts of the task, although some parts may be more fully covered than others. Presents a relevant position, although the conclusions may become unclear or repetitive. Okay, so actually these elements are aligning more to her writing. Presents relevant main ideas, but some may be inadequately developed, unclear. Right. So she is getting a 6. But just to make sure of that, let me just read out the number 5 band score 2. The band score 5 addresses the task only partially. The format may be inappropriate in places, expresses a position, but the development is not always clear and there may be no conclusions drawn. Presents some main ideas, but these are limited and not sufficiently developed. There may be irrelevant details. So she has actually written a better response than a band score 5 requirement. So she is getting a 6. So she gets 6 here. So my feedback is that write in the introduction, address the prompt or the question completely, Another feedback would be, let me give them in bullet points. Another feedback would be that she should address, explain all the addressed points properly. If there are too many points, then stick to 2 or 3 main points. I think 2 is fine, especially because it was a discussion question, so she had to discuss both the views, so 2 is fine. So let's go to cohesion and coherence. So as I said, her paragraphing leaves more to be desired, because there should be more paragraphs. There should at least be 4 paragraphs, right? The introduction, then 1 para for one view, another para for another view, and then in the conclusion, her own opinion, and then the summary. There can even be 5 paras: the introductory paragraph, 1 para for one view, the second para for second view, and then the the second para for the first view, the third para for the second view, and then the fourth para for the opinion, and the fifth para is a short summary. But I think in the opinion and the summary can go together. Alternatively, the first para can be the introduction, the second para can have the discussion of both the views, okay, but I do not recommend this, but that can also be done. And then the third para can be the opinion, your own opinion, your own stance, okay, this part of the question. And then the fourth para is a short summary. So that is about paragraphing. And about linking devices, she has used some. Besides is also a linking device, but I think that there should be more of them. Okay, so how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4. There are 5. And for example, that can also be technically a linking device, but not really, because that satisfies another part of the task response, which is to give examples. So just 5 linking devices in 3 paragraphs in the whole writing, I think that there should be more. So let's go to the rubric. Band 9 uses cohesion in such a way that it attracts no attention, skillfully manages paragraphing, no, sequences information and ideas logically, manages all aspects of cohesion well, uses paragraphing sufficiently and appropriately, so no, logically organizes information and ideas, there is clear progression throughout, uses a range of cohesive devices appropriately, although there may be some under or overuse, presents a clear central topic within each paragraph. So no, she did not do that. She did not present one paragraph. She did not dedicate one paragraph for each main point. So she is not getting a 7 either. Let's see if she gets a 6. Arranges information and ideas coherently, and there is a clear overall progression. Uses cohesive devices effectively, but cohesion within and or between sentences may be faulty or mechanical. May not always use referencing clearly or appropriately, uses paragraphing but not always logically. So she may get a 6, but I'm not sure. Let's see what band 5 requirements are. Presents information with some organization, but there may be a lack of overall progression, makes inadequate, inaccurate or overuse of cohesive devices. So it was somewhat inadequate, which means not enough. May be repetitive because of lack of referencing and substitution. May not write in paragraphs, or paragraphing may be inadequate. So she may probably be getting a 5 here. Let's see the requirements for 4. Presents information and ideas, but these are not arranged coherently and there is no clear progression in the response. Uses some basic cohesive devices, but these may be inaccurate or repetitive. May not write in paragraphs, or their use may be confusing. Okay, so she wrote a bit better than band 4, so I'm giving her band 5. Let me give her some feedback. So use more linking words. Before that, I think paragraphing is more important. Use 4 to 5 paragraphs. Alright, so dedicate one paragraph for one central idea. Alright, so these are the main feedback comments for these. Lexical research, so that of course relates to vocabulary, that relates to writing style. Okay, so I think that the writing style was quite it wasn't top notch. For example, use a wide range of vocabulary with very natural and sophisticated control of lexical features. Rare minor errors occur only as slips. So it wasn't top notch, but it was acceptable, in my opinion. For example, she wrote the real meaning of happiness. Okay, so has a direct influence on happiness, while encourage economic prosperity. So instead of success, she wrote prosperity. So that is very good. Let me highlight this in blue. Prosperous, that is also a good word, good vocabulary item. Prestigious, that is somewhat, that is commendable. Purchase instead of just buy. But here, instead of good jobs, she's repeating good jobs. So I would suggest her to write a yeah, I can give another comment here. Use synonyms. For example, she could have written something like more prestigious jobs or more lucrative jobs, right? Lucrative relates to money. So here she wrote about health. She again wrote about healthy. So no synonyms there. These words are pretty basic vocabulary, but they aren't wrong in this sense. They're somewhat appropriate as well. So I'm not penalizing her for this. So gossip, the word gossip is good. So her vocabulary, her writing style is, I don't know, maybe a 7. Let me see. Uses a wide range of vocabulary fluently and flexibly to convey precise meanings. So no. Skillfully uses uncommon lexical items, but there may be occasional inaccuracies in word choice and collocation. Produces rare errors in spelling and or word formation. So she is not getting an 8. Uses a sufficient range of vocabulary to allow some flexibility and precision. Uses less common lexical items with some awareness of style and collocation. May produce occasional errors in word choice, spelling, and or word formation. Let's go to 6. Uses an adequate range of vocabulary for the task attempts to use for the task. Then this is another point. Attempts to use less common vocabulary but with some inaccuracy. Makes some errors in spelling and or word formation, but they do not impede communication. So I can think about healthiness, the word healthiness here. It doesn't reduce or impede communication, but that was an error nonetheless. Uses a limited range of vocabulary, but this is minimally adequate for the task. May make noticeable errors in spelling and or word formation that may cause some difficulty for the reader. So I think she is somewhere between 6 and 7. I'm giving her a 6 here. So her feedback about lexical resources to use more synonyms and a bit of a richer vocabulary, but that is not a very important thing for her to boost her score, because synonyms would be enough to boost her score to a 7 here. But still I'm writing here richer vocabulary. Sometimes we may intentionally try to bring in rich vocabulary in our writings, but if they are wrong, then the penalty is very high. So if you are not sure about using some rich vocabulary items, then do not use them. Just use simple sentences, simple words. but if you are confident enough to use them, then please do, because IELTS, they do actually take into account the vocabulary you use. Now for the last criterion for the feedback, for the rubric actually, is grammatical range and accuracy. So as my um, as my Grammarly has been showing constantly throughout this video, there are 23 errors here, but some of these errors, they're not actually errors but suggestions. So I would say that there are about 15 of them. For example, let me count: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Yeah, there are about 12 errors, or there may be a little bit more. So I think that there are a lot of errors actually. 12 is a big number. So, and accuracy, so some spelling, there were some spelling errors, though not many, but mostly grammatical errors. Some were careless, and some were, I think she needs to develop her grammatical skills a bit more. She needs to practice more. So let's see what I can give her in this criterion. Uses a wide range of structures with full flexibility and accuracy. Rare minor errors occur only as slips. Uses a wide range of structures. The majority of sentences are error-free. Makes only very occasional errors or inappropriacies. Uses a variety of complex structures. Produces frequent error-free sentences. Has good control of grammar and punctuation, but may make a few errors. So take a look at this suggestion, or at this requirement. Uses a variety of complex structures. I think that she hasn't actually used many complex sentences, right? I saw some, but there aren't many. So this is another thing that you should be conscious about when giving the IELTS. So if you are confident about your English skills enough to write complex sentences, then please do. But if you feel like if you are going to write complex sentences, then you're going to make mistakes, then don't. Just write in simple sentences, compound sentences. But if you can, then please do. Alright, so she's not getting a 7 either. Uses a mix of simple and complex sentence forms. Makes some errors in grammar and punctuation, but they rarely reduce communication. Okay, so uses only a limited range of structures, attempts complex sentences, but these tend to be less accurate than simple sentences, may make frequent grammatical errors, and punctuation may be faulty. Errors can cause some difficulty for the reader. Uses only a very limited range of structures with only rare use of subordinate clauses. Some structures are accurate, but errors predominate, and punctuation is often faulty. So I'm afraid I have to give her a 4 here in grammatical range and accuracy, because her range in grammar is not being shown. Let me just check once again. So this is a simple sentence. This is a complex sentence. So this was a good complex sentence example. Simple, complex, compound, complex, but there are some errors, right? She hasn't given a comma here. Simple, 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 simple. Yes, I am afraid I have to give her a 4 here. So the primary feedback comment is to use more complex sentences besides, and also use a variety. Meaning simple, complex, and compound sentences. There should be a variety here. Number 2, too many grammatical mistakes. Over 12. Yeah, I think that's it. So let me just average this mark. So 6 plus 5 plus 6 plus 4. Let me go to the calculator. 6 plus 5 plus 6 plus 4. That was it, right? 6, 5, 6, 4. Right. I think she's going to get 5.5 divided by 4. Yeah, 5.25, which is 5.5. So overall, it's 5.5. So that's it. That was the live checking of an IELTS Writing Task 2 response. So hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe if you like the content, and please stay with me on my journey to become more fluent in English.